The following news flash is brought to you by the Lone Star Lowdown, providing your daily bulletins for the commodities market. Today in history, news updates, and the inside scoop into the tides of the alternative. Markets for Wednesday, March 23rd, 2016 are currently trading with gold at $1,223.93 an ounce, silver $15.28 an ounce, Texas crude $41.45 a barrel, and Bitcoin is currently sitting at about 417 U.S. currency. Today in history, the year 1775, Patrick Henry proclaims, "Give me liberty or give me death," in a speech in favor of Virginian troops joining the U.S. Revolutionary War. The infamous slogan of American rebels, "Give me liberty or give me death," was first said today in history. In recent news, an independent panel investigating the Flint water crisis blamed Governor Rick Snyder's office directly, concluding that incompetent state employees in charge of supervising water quality, including state-appointed emergency managers, ignored a list of growing problems with the city water supply and negligently ignored signs of lead contamination. The 116-page report had blame for every level of government, from local Flint officials to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, but blamed the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, the state agency responsible for monitoring Flint's water supply, as primarily responsible for the water contamination in Flint. The report said that the Flint water crisis is a story of government failure, intransigence, unpreparedness, delay in action, and environmental injustice. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said today that Belgian law enforcement and anti-terror departments ignored warnings last June that one of the brothers suspected of blowing himself up in the terror attacks there on Tuesday was a terrorist. Ibrahim El Bakraoui, suspected of being the bomber who blew himself up at the Zaventem airport, killing at least 11, was stopped crossing into Turkey from Syria 9 months ago, when Turkish officials said that they apparently told anti-terror agencies in Brussels of his involvement with ISIS, the group who claimed responsibility in Tuesday's attacks. A Turkish official stated Dutch authorities allowed Bakraoui to go free because they were unable to establish any ties to terrorism or ISIS. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported today that Belgian security service, as well as other Western intelligence agencies, had advanced and precise intelligence of the pending terror attacks prior to them. The newspaper said government agencies had specific warning that the attacks were coming soon and would take place at the airport and in the subway system, though it is not clear how exactly said agencies were warned of the attacks in advance. This was Rick Brody with your lowdown for March 23rd, 2016.
Logos Radio Network presents The Truth Exposed Radio Show every Wednesday 6 to 8 p.m., bringing to you breakdowns on current events, history, and philosophy with your hosts, Rick Brody, Marshall Soul, and Cuddy Rowe. Welcome and thank you for tuning in.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Truth Exposed Radio here, the whole crew, the Three Stooges of Liberty. Rick Brody here.
Marshall Soul.
Cuddy Rowe.
And we are live this lovely Wednesday, March 23rd, 2016. Live transmitting through the Logos Radio Network. Do hope you've had a wonderful week, a wonderful day today at work, grinding, making ends meet, doing what you got to do in the voluntary market of things.
Right, in the spontaneous order of things.
Most definitely. Lines will be open, 512-646-1984. Feel free to call in with your 2 cents, your take, your questions, opinions.
Definitely.
Always love having free speech transmitted constantly. Our condolences do go out to the people in Brussels as a result of the terrorist attacks there yesterday. Right?
Any loss of life is a tragedy. Any loss of life is a tragedy.
Definitely.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody that is suffering as a result of war and just unjustified murder, which is, we always like to call out here on the show, can only be achieved on proportions that are grotesque through the state, and only the state can produce such things as all-out warfare. So our hearts and minds do go out to the victims of all warfare, whether terroristic or through official means. War is a so-called like inhumane thing.
So-called legitimate war, right? So-called legitimate murder.
Yeah. So we'll definitely be getting into that because there are some iffy things about some of the people involved and some details we want to bring up. We're also going to be getting into John Locke's little breakdown of the acquisition of land in his little treatise. I figured it would be something to be insightful to go over. And
Since we've been going off about property rights and
we should really nail the head into the coffin of communism.
Definitely, because you can definitely see it's a big push today these days. It's almost common. You know, there's a whole lot of people who believe in this ideology.
Well, they already got to the point where you no longer own your land. I mean, you have to pay a property tax. So, I mean, you're already over halfway there. You're just a tenant.
Yep.
And that'll get the people to be like, oh, we don't want any property owners. So
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we've got UN, Agenda 21 and all its little implications that are controlling our land here. So, I mean, it's already taken over. The communists have already taken over.
They've been in power quite some time now, haven't they?
Yeah,
so we're definitely going to be breaking that down. And just so much things to cover. Of course, it is a special day, which we'll get into in the second hour, a little breakdown of that. So stay tuned for that little present. But before we get it kickstarted, before we get it going, definitely check out logosradionetwork.com. And, come on. I mean, we've had to extend this drawing because we're just not making ends meet here, ladies and gentlemen. And we just don't really want to get off the air, do we?
Nope. We haven't even hit the bottom line. Nice. We haven't even hit that 50% mark. I mean,
we've got government lists to make. Come on, guys.
That's right. I mean, if rule of law can make the Solid Poverty Law Center's list, if anti-government groups, we can do it too.
Yeah, we can do it too. Come on, we need to earn our spot.
Shout out to Brave New Books. Yes, shout out to Brave New Books for also being on the list, and all the plethora of other patriot groups and militia groups, and just self-responsibility, self-accountability, the most trustworthy people out there for the most part. People that believe in property rights, people that believe in liberty, or people that can be trusted.
To me, it's really something, a badge of honor, something to be proud of. When the evil, the spiritual wickedness in high places is over there putting your name down on paper, like saying you're anti-government. You got to love that. You're definitely doing something right, in my book.
So we definitely want to keep chucking over here, keep laying down the rails and just exposing the deceptions and the sophisms of these statist goons. To the left, to the right, they're everywhere. And their philosophies are everywhere. But, we do need to keep the broadcast going and
definitely
the transmission, keep the transmission going. And
yeah, definitely. I mean, check out, the drawing we have. We've had these really great prizes over here. We've got the Spikes, skull over receiver that is just too good to, I mean, it's too awesome to explain with words.
You just got to go to the website and look at it yourself because there's that. And of course that Taurus curve.
Yep.
And then if you purchase Eddie Craig's traffic seminar before March 31st, you can receive 10 entries into this drawing. Otherwise, donate $25. Get on that list of possibilities to win these prizes.
Yes, sir. And y'all are sleeping out there because I'm telling you, I'm just going to go buy like 100 tickets or something, a couple hundred one day. Watch.
And I tell you, getting Eddie Craig's traffic seminar would be well worth it in itself,
I didn't know you were balling that much.
Not that much. Yeah, I had to take that back. Not that many. Yeah.
I mean, it is a nice receiver.
Yes, sir. And the gun too. And yeah, you really can't lose.
Yeah, sponsored by Central Texas Gunworks. Awesome job on those. Do appreciate it. And of course, great lineup of sponsors here. Definitely check out Non-GMO Solutions. Use promo code LOGOS, get 10% discount. Go through our website, refresh your cookies, shop Amazon, do what you got to do, and definitely consider us while you're doing it. And Global Healing Center, you want to detox, you want to clear yourself out.
They've got the super male vitality, the female vitality, the liver cleanse, the oxy powder.
They got that colloidal silver?
They probably do.
If not, they have a whole litany of things that
I'm sure they've got colloidal silver as well.
If not, man, you can go check out that Gold Savings Club we got over there, the real gold bullion currency, carat bar currency. You can refer others and get paid. It's free to join.
If only you can make that colloidal, right? Colloidal gold.
They're working on it.
That monatomic gold over here. You guys don't know about monatomic gold?
The monatomic white powder?
Yeah.
Jim Mars was breaking it down that one time over Brave New Books.
Really?
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
When you were jamming with them?
No, that was another time.
Okay.
Interesting. I didn't know him.
But I did get to jam with Jim Mars.
Epic. And definitely How to Win in Court. No lawyer, no problem.
HowToWinAtCourt.com, the Michael Marius proven method.
Definitely check it out. It's, of course, the flagship of Logos Radio Network, Rule of Law Radio.
Yeah, Eddie Craig, Deborah Stevens, Randy Kelton.
Making the list, the naughty list.
Yep. Shout out to y'all for making that list.
Yeah. That's the Southern Poverty Law Center anti-government group list.
But is there anything really wrong with that? I mean, isn't that kind of an honor in a sense? You know,
That's what I said.
Well, it depends on how you define government, doesn't it?
well, and plus, if you're against something, it's not like you mean any violent harm or anything. It's just you don't agree with it.
I'm just saying, like, that depends on your definition of government.
Yeah.
I think everybody would be against murder, or 99.9% of people would be against theft.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. And the threats of violence.
yeah, thefts of theft or threats of violence. Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't pay this parking ticket, we're going to come pick you up and throw you in jail.
Exactly.
or garnish your wages.
Yeah. Or you don't, cut your lawn. We're going to put liens against your property. Like,
What's that? The homeowners or something else or what?
that's the International Code Council.
Which homeowners associations succumb to whenever they're out there finding little ladies for having grass that's just a little too high and then putting a lien on their house and kicking them out.
Maybe you got a soda can, or maybe you got some mosquitoes, some sitting water.
Barbecue pit, just chilling.
You got your trash can sitting
Yeah,
out
they don't
front.
like the way it looks. They can say that looks unsanitary.
That's unsightly.
It's unsightly.
Did you get our permission to put a shed in your backyard?
Mm-hmm. There's weeds that are annoying.
That shed is over 4 feet tall now.
Yeah.
You need a permit for that.
No, it happens, and if you read it, it even tells you can't have you can't park your company vehicles in your HOAs. In most cases, I've seen a few. If you work for a company that happens to be your take-home truck, technically you're not supposed to park it there.
Yeah. So is that what we're jumping into first?
I don't know.
It sounds like we're getting into property rights here.
No,
There's so many things infringing on property
Can't
rights,
help it.
aren't there? There's so many things infringing on property rights out there every day.
Those weeds look obnoxious.
Every day.
What was that you were breaking down a minute ago, Cuddy? I mean, I know we broke it down off air, but for the people out there, that international code.
Yeah, it's International Code Council. And I mean, just when you just initially hear the name International Code Council, the international, that's multi-nations. What nations are they? Oh, all the nations in the in the UN. It's basically a piece of Agenda 21. It is a piece of Agenda 21,
it's
along with BLM and things like that of nature.
So it's pretty much like a council that creates regulations and laws to pass on to other like industries.
It's a code. It's a code for building standards and for your property.
But it probably extends further into that too.
Well, I know people.
I would imagine what commercial and residential.
Residential and commercial. Yeah. Everything that's a building everywhere on the land everywhere. And yeah, there's the head of it. I forget. He's like the president of it. He's the sole interpreter, and so he can apply the laws or the code however he wants.
Well, I'm sure that's the case with that's the case with every regulatory agency.
Exactly. And in a bunch of cities, they're allowed to quote unquote amend it and really just change the name of it. So when people start to discover what this is and ask about it, they can say, "Oh no, that doesn't apply here," and they have a different name of it.
Yeah, it's just something that's slowly been creeping in amongst a bunch of regulatory agencies, where slowly they merge their policies as one.
It's been here for I think 10 or 15 years, and I know people who build homes for a living and are project managers, and they say, oh yeah, that's the Bible of the code of you need your house to be inspected to make sure it's safe.
Building code.
Yeah, building code. Yeah. And so I mean, a lot of people think, oh well, you need code. We always had this false idea that we need the safety forced on us, but it's not of choice, and it's.
Yeah, they're essentially stripping away our right to homestead.
Yes.
I mean, we need their permission now to be able to homestead. It's as simple as that.
Well, see, like
in order to, you may have a piece of land now, but if you want to just be able to, you just can't just live on the land. You can't just plot a tent there and live on the land, or build a couple of shacks that you put your bedroom in and your kitchen in and your chill out room in. No, you can't. It's got to be all according to code compliance and according to their rules and regulations. Ridiculous.
Not if you're on the county, though.
Yeah, right. Well, we're going to keep breaking this down and other things down, so definitely stay tuned here. We're on To Expose Radio.
You are listening to the Logos Radio Network. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Hello, mate. All right? Yeah, I'm all right.
Never
we are back live. This is Truth Exposed here on the Logos Radio Network, and we do appreciate you for tuning in. I'm one of your hosts, Cuddy Rowe.
Marshall Soul.
Rick Brody.
What was that?
That was that Death Star voice.
I think last time he
I don't know, it was
scared me
something.
when he did that.
It was something. It's been done before though, so it's not that original. I'm sorry. Anyhow, we were breaking down this ICC, International Code Compliance Organization.
It's also known as the International Property Maintenance Code.
Pretty much, eventually they want to take over, and whereas before on your own property out in the county, you had basically like they put it in the category of farmland where you can do your own kind of electrical, plumbing, anything you wanted, and it wasn't supposed to be it didn't have to be up to regulations. Somebody wasn't going to come out there and inspect it. It's done at your own risk, and you do what you wish.
That's the way things should be. If you want an inspection, you pay for an inspection, and you get the stipulations of whatever are in that contract for the inspection.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right to contract. It's the right to association. It's the right to not be forced into a contract or association that you don't want to be a part of. And it's your right to take those risks. I mean, sure, they can, as well as it's their right to offer code compliance, or code standard services. That's perfectly within their right. It's people's rights to either accept or refuse a service and pay for that service.
For instance, if you were, had a choice to sign a contract for this code, international code, property maintenance code, council, you'd see, they can bulldoze your stuff down if you are somewhere against their.
Is that stipulated in there?
Yes, and then you have to pay for it. They can put you in jail.
It's eminent domain without compensation.
Where's it stipulated at, or where they got?
It's on their website.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a website, International Code Council.
Essentially, the codes are available to the public.
Yes, I heard someone mention it,
and
then I
the
went
enforcement of the codes or the possible results of breaking.
Yeah, there's an officer, who has a little truck, drives around, and
but various inspectors and code compliance.
Right.
Because speaking from a tradesman point of view, I see where code compliance and regulations have been corrupted to where they give you bad products, or somebody getting lobbied to put their trash in a product. Like looking at whenever they started to phase out incandescent light bulbs and they came in with these curly mercury bulbs. Someone lobbied to have their industrial waste put into a light bulb and sold to you. But if you actually read the box on there, it says it contains mercury, and if it breaks in your house, that you should call a hazmat team.
See, okay, so if a light bulb is bad enough because the mercury in it. Okay, so if that broke and these code council people came, that is bad. That is worse probably than mosquitoes. Okay, so they would say, okay, you've got to have a hazmat team come and scrub everything. And every day that it's not, they can charge you hundreds of dollars. And if you don't pay, they can lock you up for a month in jail. And then they can put liens against your property, or they can bulldoze it, depending on whatever the interpreter, the president of the council at that time.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. If we can get direct citations of where this is found, that'd be insane. You know what I'm saying? If that power's within that international organization.
It's funny because I was talking to a home builder, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, it's been here for 10 years, but they don't enforce it." And I said, "Yeah, but I've heard stories here and there where they have selectively enforced it, and the more
it's pretty much like a body created a set of regulations and rules, and then certain people went along with them and put that next to their name, saying, "Hey, we are blue listed or whatever." And that creates a standard, and then everybody else gets forced into it by that standard, where it was once was voluntarily, then it's coming in and being forced upon everybody if they want to do business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's going to be eventually forced in, and this is the problem with regulatory agencies. Is essentially the whole crux of it, ladies and gentlemen, and it's pretty easy to see the difference here. I mean, as much as this political mumbo jumbo can get kind of complicated, and we wonder how these organizations could even have the authority to do such things. Only Congress is. I mean, if we're going to have a U.S. government, if we're going to have a government that's based on what the government was supposed to be, in other words, based on the Constitution, then only Congress, only that branch of government is allowed to legislate, to make laws, to essentially regulations, codes of standards of action, of ethics, of how we're supposed to act with certain things that are deemed legally, viable to write laws on.
Yeah, you can just go to
so through these regulatory agencies, which they do through so many. I mean, just name all the agencies out there that regulate whatever. Whatever that agency decides to do doesn't have to be approved by Congress. I mean, all Congress has to do is approve the existence of said agency, and it's done. That agency has now essentially. Now there may be companies that challenge certain EPA rulings or
FDA
challenge
or-
certain FDA rulings, and then the Supreme Court, lo and behold, the Supreme Court is brought into the equation. But
really, what good has the FDA done us, or the CDC, or the?
Yeah, no, totally, man. Not much. I don't see much good coming from all that when you consider that so many of the diseases that are accidentally getting out because of the CDC or them mailing themselves anthrax accidentally from certain military bases. I mean,
How do you accidentally mail yourself anthrax?
yeah. This whole time suppressing the benefits, the health benefits of marijuana. I mean, that's not an economic protectionism for big pharma. I don't know what else would be. You know?
That or all the other applications to go with it too. I mean, there's so many different uses back in its day, and then what they had found in the early 20s, or even before then. You know, how to utilize it as a fuel, how to utilize it as make it into a plastic, or make it into take the fibers from it. It's one of the strongest known natural fibers to man.
Oh yeah, but property rights aren't respected in this society, you know, and that's really the problem, isn't it? That's why we have a constant state of war, a constant state of conflict between people, because they don't respect each other's property. And with people themselves, of course, it would be easier to tell. You know, if you didn't respect someone's person, that would be a blatant, act of aggression. Anybody would pretty much defend themselves in that situation if you try to impose your physical will upon somebody. Right. And anyway, people will stand against that. But when it comes to the debate about property and what is legitimate property, and does the collective, or i.e. the government, have the right to take property away from certain groups of people, things get convoluted, right?
They at least put a law onto it where it at least had to be just compensation. But what's just compensation?
Oh yeah, it's just some little poetic little metaphor there that can't even be
Eminent domain, and
articulated.
they never give you
precisely
what the land's worth, you know?
Yeah, eminent domain. There we go. Another classic case in point. You spend all this money on some house that I'm
reminded of that story of that little lady that wouldn't sell her house in this mall, or ended up being built all the way around her house and all that, and they had to give her that space, her little lot. And she had a little fence and everything, but the rest of it was like this big old mall, and the backside of it, because there was just like concrete all around her house.
Hilarious.
And it was a tall building too. So she it pretty much blocked out the sun for her. I bet her air conditioning bill was, pretty low.
Yeah, I've seen a house under a highway before. Been to one.
Got plenty of shade.
Very interesting.
I've been pretty close to the highway, but I don't know about directly underneath.
Under it. Crazy.
Henry's was just a stone's throw away.
Yeah.
Under it. I don't know how that worked out. But.
How did that not get taken up by eminent domain? I mean, the state's saying, we're building a bridge, or we're building an overpass.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a hazard, right? It's a hazard in some way. Well, we are coming on a break, ladies and gentlemen. Going to break down some John Locke after this, so stay tuned.
Do you sleep with your cell phone? If the answer is yes, you might be among a growing number of folks who suffer from nomophobia. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll tell you about people's growing fear of being disconnected next.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
Do you take your cell phone into the bathroom or panic if it's not in arm's reach? Do you keep an extra phone on hand just in case your main phone stops working? If you do any of these things, you may have nomophobia or no mobile phobia, the fear of being caught without your cell phone. And you wouldn't be alone. A recent survey finds 2/3 of us feel afraid without our cell phones. That's a huge increase over just 4 years ago. And the problem is even worse among young people, where nearly 8 out of 10 people under 24 feel anxious when they're unplugged. How could a technology that's supposed to simplify our lives have become such a burden? I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Looking for some truth? You found it. LogosRadioNetwork.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Truth Exposed Radio right here on the Logos Radio Network. March 23rd, 2016. Hope y'all loving it out there. I'm one of your hosts here, Marshall Soul, along with my buddies.
Cuddy Rowe.
Rick Rody.
And we're just starting to get into property taxes and just getting the lowdown from our producer about,
the code. A lot of the codes and regulations, right? We don't realize them. Yeah, we don't realize it. You know, we don't realize that it's in the fine print of a lot of these things.
And a lot of times it's not even in the complete fine print. You know, it's already implied.
Oh yeah. No one goes to the International Code Council website and reads all the code and sees what it all entails.
Or your city ordinance codes, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was essentially sort of like driving, right? I mean, if you claim that you were driving to begin with,
yes, then you have to. Yeah.
Well, what is your definition of driving? You
exactly.
Know? That's driving. You know, driver. You know, those are things you get paid for.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
I was a driver at one point. You know, I got paid to go drive around. Matter of fact, I kind of still do get paid to go drive around. So I'm driving. They got to pay me while I'm driving.
Yeah, it's just, you know.
So it's still, you could argue, quasi contractual society. We're in a quasi contractual society, except
we're unaware,
negotiating and being able to negotiate the contract or know what the contract fully implies isn't really revealed to us.
Well, that in itself should be, you know, a void contract because, you know, there wasn't full, you know, a disclosure on the terms.
Right? On the terms.
Yeah. So that's fraud, or should be, but of course they don't play directly by the law. They play in codes.
Well,
and
a lot of these things, people don't know that there's some other way. It seems like this is the only way to
live life, right?
To acquire property or to, you know, operate a vehicle or whatever it may be. You know,
and so many people force somebody's opinion upon you.
So many people are completely intimidated by wanting to go into a courthouse or wanting to file something against the state or, you know, fight any kind of regulatory agency. Or
people are scared to fight a
it's
traffic
easier just
ticket.
To get the $50 or the $100 or
exactly. People are scared to fight traffic tickets, simple ones that they didn't, you know, that even when they know they're innocent, they're scared to it's just easier to pay them and walk out.
So is it laziness or is it fear?
It's both. It's more laziness, though, I'd say.
Could be ignorance, too. They don't know any better.
Well, that's laziness.
Yeah.
They never wanted to know any better.
Yeah, it could be indoctrinated, too.
It's both. It's both. Some know it's
but to be indoctrinated is pretty lazy. I mean, you're essentially never tested your premises. You never checked your premises.
You have to consider children and young teens. You know, they only know what the culture and the world has taught them thus far and what is instilled in them.
Well, I've seen a guy.
I mean, heck, I was talking to my little stepbrother about, you know, whether or not, you know, you should have a license for driving your personal automobile. And then I was trying to break it down like mowing lawns. And he said, oh, yeah, I don't think it'd be that bad to for government to force you to have a license in order to mow your lawn or have a lawnmower. You know, that's what it's come to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They get the kids and I got the future. And you're raised, you know, you're a fish raised in status water and you don't realize it.
You don't realize it until you start reading things and looking up on things.
And even then, sometimes that gets scary, you know, so there's both those aspects, you know. I've been in court before, and a guy was like, "Oh yeah, it's a racket." You know, I'm not gonna fight it. Like I know they're wrong, but yeah, he just paid and walked out. And it's like, wow, like you got to fight this thing. Like they're not gonna leave you alone until you do.
Yeah. Yeah, people.
It's a bully. It's a bully. You know, you can't.
People are afraid. And it comes from also not knowing the way out. I mean, it's education, right? I mean, it's when you know what path to take. Once you know the truth and how to defend it and articulate it, then you're definitely armed with weaponry at that point to fight, swindlers, to fight people that are trying to trick you into something. It's only those that are in ignorance, those that may have been indoctrinated, that get swindled.
Everybody.
Hence, may be a reason why the swindler would want to get our children as soon as possible.
Kindergarten,
pre-K,
pre-K, man.
Just pop them out and just give them over to the government, you know?
It's co-parenting.
That's why it wasn't Spartan, right?
It's their new co-parent, the state.
No, you're the co-parent to the state.
They reap the benefits. You reap the mistakes.
I mean, in Nazi Germany, they were training the kids to go narc out the parents and then, you know, go back and tell the government what was going on at home.
They're still doing that today.
Yeah, they're still doing it today.
Come and tell us if your parents have guns in the house. I remember that one a while back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, if your parents smoke pot, if your parents have guns, if your parents talk about government, if they're against the government, if they push the Bible on you, if your parents are religious, if they believe in the flat earth or whatnot.
Oh, man.
Hey, have y'all heard about that? I mean, there seems to be a lot of internet chatter about that. Speaking of property rights, what if the whole spectrum of property rights we're trying to cut up is on a flat plane?
Oh man.
I find the topic very intriguing, but I can't say yes or no. But see, I'm of the mindset that I can entertain a thought.
You can't say
without
yes,
endorsing
but
it.
there's hundreds and hundreds of NASA pictures of the Earth.
Yeah, but it's
No,
not.
there's
Like,
not. No.
there's not. You don't get the full picture of Earth. You know,
They can't get that far away.
and everything you get's like animated. So, but I'm not saying it is and it isn't. But I'm just saying I can't say yes or no. It's strange. It is very peculiar.
So you've seen some of these videos, then?
Mm-hmm. I have.
Interesting.
Well, I entertain all thought. All.
You got to listen to even the
ideas and-
most craziest of ideas and let your eyes and let your logic and let your.
When I first heard it, I was like, "Yeah, right. Let me see what these crazy people are saying." Like the Earth's flat.
Yeah, because and if you have
like, isn't that what this? Way
if you
back
have a
then?
curiosity of like old tales and whatnot, they kind of tie into it. So that's just it's stories to me.
Yeah.
But they did bring up some interesting points, though.
Aside from that topic, which
Yes,
is
it's super fringe. Super fringe at Kelly.
definitely encourage you guys to send us some. We would love to see some pictures of the Earth. I would just love it.
Yeah,
unaltered pictures.
You mean a real picture of the Earth?
Yeah,
As a
I mean,
marble?
we went to the moon, right? I mean, we should have plenty of pictures of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. I'm hoping. Anyway, so definitely we're going to be moving on here to Locke's little breakdown here of the acquisition of property, because this was really going to solidify what we're trying to get at here, ladies and gentlemen. Sure, we there's these code compliances and these deeds that we signed into, and we're complicit in our own demise. We've been swindled for sure. But before that, is there a right to property? Before we can get swindled from our property, is there a right to it? Or should we all just be in a communist Cuban utopia of some sort, of Bernie Sanders utopia of some kind?
Everything to everyone.
Well, if you don't own it outright, are you going to take care of it? If it's
No.
not yours, are you going to look after it?
Hence the state and their conservation laws that don't conserve anything.
I mean, that's just kind of
like a
common
Patriot
sense
Act
to
that's
me.
not patriotic? Or-
Yeah. All their net neutrality, it's not neutral.
Yeah. So Chapter 5 in Two Treaties of Government on property, John Locke really breaks it down, and he mind you guys, he brings in a lot of scripture here, which is really interesting because to consider that the father of liberalism, for those that have read some of the Second Treaties, because it is a pretty extensive book, it's like close to 800 pages. But he uses a lot of scripture, and it seems like almost like liberalism, true liberalism, is almost based on the idea of property rights, the idea of self-ownership, self-determination, self-accountability, self-responsibility. All these different things, are basically an extension of biblical principles. As we'll see here right now, on page, I believe, 115 of his treatise, Second Treatise, Two Treaties on Government, whether we consider natural reason, which tells us that men, being once born, have a right to their preservation, and consequently to meat and drink, and such other things as nature affords for their sustenance, or revelation, which gives us an account of those grants God made of the word to Adam and to Noah and to his sons, it is very clear that God, as King David says in Psalm 115:16, has given the earth to the children of men, given it to mankind in common. But this being supposed, it seems to some a very great difficulty how anyone should ever come to have
Easy.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. This lovely 23rd of March, actually the 14th of Nisan. Special day. We'll find out next segment.
Hold on tight. Don't fall off the edge of the earth.
So property. We were just breaking down Locke's notorious, infamous, iconic breakdown here on property, and in his Second Treatise of Government, Two Treaties of Government. And he just mentioned Psalms here, basically mentioned God giving land to mankind. And he was about to get into the part where, before we got cut off there, it is impossible that any man I'm sorry, that. But this being supposed, it seems to some a very great difficulty how anyone should ever come to have a property in anything, because everything's in common, right? We were discussing that. If you think that everyone owns the earth, well, then some people have a problem with people owning property in anything, because they say, hey, that I have a claim to that.
That means people could just open your door, come in your house, and
right. I mean,
eat everything in the fridge, and you sleep on the couch. I get your bed.
Well, they'll distinguish between personal property and private property, but.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll say that's a straw man argument there, but people don't believe in land ownership, and I think this is what Locke here is getting.
Well, where are you gonna put all that stuff if it's yours? It's private property that they agree with.
Or, I don't know. It's just put it in your pocket to another dimension or something.
I mean, where are you gonna put your stuff?
I don't know.
You gotta have your own place to put your stuff, right?
We are physical beings. Yes, we are 3-dimensional beings. Yes.
I mean, how many square foot am I allotted?
Well, that's why I'm saying you got to follow to its conclusion. I mean. People can't be consistent all the way through, right?
No, they can't. So Locke continues on here saying that I will not contend myself to answer that if it be difficult to make out property upon a supposition that God gave the world to Adam and his posterity in common, it is impossible that any man but one universal monarch should have any property upon the supposition that God gave the world to Adam and his heirs in succession, exclusive of all the rest of his posterity. So yeah, in order to believe we need a king, that somehow people have a right to rule over everybody else, you would have to say that Adam was given this right, and this right was passed on through the direct lineage of Adam alone.
Pay your feudal dues. Interesting.
Right, but and that's the only way you could do it, at least through a biblical stance. Because mind you, in this time, people are using the scripture to justify monarchy.
When Cain was cast out, and there were people out there, those aren't relative to Adam.
Well, that's a theological debate there, whether there was other people created besides Adam and Eve, and whether there were other people in the equation. Some theologians believe it was just Adam and Eve, and others believe there may have been some pre-Adamic or some other.
Well, then there's Lilith too.
Some other. Well, that's more Gnostic or whatever, or Jewish pseudo-apocryphal. But yeah, it's interesting here as far as. At this time, it's smart to consider, or it does you right to consider that people are using the scriptures to justify monarchy in these times. So this is why Locke is then using scripture to justify liberalism, the idea that each man should rule themselves, and not men over men. So, or men over women, even, right? Which he later brings up. So, which is interesting too, that so-called feminists would be willing, so-called liberals today would be willing to side with extreme anti-women groups, like I don't know, Muslims, right?
Islam. Yeah, definitely.
That's not all Muslims, but
it's going down
extreme Islamic adherents to the Islamic faith definitely consider their wives to be second class, as do pretty much the orthodoxy the orthodoxy of every religion. Whether in Christendom, they're considered of less. Look at the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church. You're not allowed to be a priest and a woman, right? You're not only men are allowed to be priests. So there's definitely a Gnostic hierarchy of a men-only fraternity, if you will, of some kind. Definitely not equal. Definitely not, or the idea that Muhammad had multiple wives, right? And that's promoted amongst that religion, and that's a custom. That was a custom of the Jews too when they left Egypt. The Hebrews, when they left Egypt, they had multiple wives, and Moses had to admonish them several times on the point. So it's just crazy that so many religions, try to justify rulership of, and they go back to the scriptures, right, in order to justify their rulership. And it's neat that Locke is then using the scriptures to totally disseminate, what they're trying to promote. So
they're the great thinkers, though. They know better than the Goyim. They make sure of that, promoting them, giving them status education.
Oh yeah. That's all we get. So here he continues on to say that God, who's given the world to men in common, hath also given them reason to make use of it to the best advantage of life and convenience. The earth and all this therein is given to men for the support and comfort of their being. And though all the fruits it naturally produces and beasts it feeds belongs to mankind in common, as they are produced by spontaneous hand of nature, right? We were talking about that. If it's just an apple tree just chilling out in the middle of a field that no one planted, hey, that's everyone got a common ownership to that. And nobody has originally, he continues on to say that nobody has originally a private dominion exclusive of the rest of mankind in any use of them, as they are thus in their natural state, yet being given for the use of men. There must of necessity be a means to appropriate them some way or other before they can be of any use, or at all beneficial to any particular men. The fruit or venison, which nourishes the wild Indian, who knows no enclosure and is still a tenant in common, must be his. Right? And so this IEA part of him that another can no longer have any right to it before it can do him any good for the support of his life. So even like meat, right? You try to that classic argument, right? You always hear it from socialists or collectivists. Well, Indians didn't have any property rights. Indians didn't have any property rights. Well, I'm sure the bow and arrow that you spent hours and hours making and perfecting, you didn't beat up the guy that tried to take that bow and arrow you spent hours in making all sweet, like making the best arrow
or whatever, and all kinds of
right.
Their teepees,
They pretty much had to band together to defend a particular area.
Well, that's why they banded together. That's why they banded together to protect their own common good.
It's family. It's tribes. It's tribalism. It's like it's how people survive.
So it's hilarious when people try to say that. Oh well,
that was
Indians
spontaneous order. That was spontaneous order back
then. That, And I guess they would, to that point, they would extend to the land again. Say, well, they didn't own the land, but how do you produce all these things, right? If it's not for the land, where do you station all your teepees at in your hut? Where do you squat at for the while if it's not on land?
Yep.
So,
and a lot of them were fighting over land, were they not? Were they not fighting over territories?
I'm sure they were fighting over territory. Hey, some territories are a lot better than others, aren't they?
Well, there's like hunting land and particular areas that they like to fish at, or
right, better sources for this or that
for survival.
For survival, interesting.
And nowadays, we've got all kinds of technology. No need for any of that. I mean, we can.
It's a beauty how we can sustain. What is it, 7+ billion now? Yeah. How many people did they have back in these times, in the Indian times? That we're discussing here.
Well, then again, there's also the time period.
A couple million.
I don't know.
Before the plagues broke out over here that the Europeans brought, they probably was a lot more.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go with the statism, with the false ideologies, false religions promoting statism that did all that, for sure. Right? I mean, what Church of England, the Catholic Church, all sending their conquistadors and their pioneers over here, right?
Portugal.
Yeah, people forget about all that.
Yeah, there's a reason South America is all predominantly Catholic, and
yes, Portugal and Spain, and
people forget there's a whole bunch of people coming over here conquering and taking over all kinds of stuff. Like,
yeah,
how many countries owned all?
Like, go back to Europe. Well, you speak Spanish. Go back to Spain.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, yeah. I mean,
well, why should we go back to where we came from? I mean,
let's pull all the continents.
They started.
I can't travel to Antarctica, the center of Antarctica.
Let's pull all the continents back together and make it Pangea.
You'll never get over the mountain, Rick.
Oh man. Knocking off.
Yeah. So, but Locke wasn't knocking off at all, man. Locke was breaking it down step by step here.
Yes, sir.
He's got it even broken down into little sections here. We're section 26 of his chapter 5 on property. So,
property.
Yes. Though the earth and all inferior creatures, this is the common one that everyone uses, be common to all men, yet every man has property in his own person. This nobody has a right to but himself. The labor of his body and the work of his hands, we may say, are properly his. Whatsoever then he removes out of the state of nature, hath provided and left it in, he hath mixed it with his labor with it, and joined to something that is his own, and thereby makes it his property, it being by him removed from the common state of nature that placed it in, and hath by his labor something annexed to it that exclude the common right of other men. For this labor, being the unquestionable property of the laborer, no man but he can have a right to. So what he has once joined to, at least where that is enough, and is left in common for others. So yeah, you can't be taking up all the water if there's no water left, but hey.
Logos Radio Network presents Truth Exposed Radio, a transmission promoting resistance to tyranny. Listen in as we explore counter-economics, spontaneous order, and the human strive for liberty with your host, Rick Rody, Marshall Soul, and Cuddy Rowe. And now, Truth Exposed Radio.
And we're back live this March 23rd, 2016. This is Truth Exposed here on the Logos Radio Network. And we were just reading some really good words from John Locke, were we not?
Oh, breaking it down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Getting into some, some good curriculum about, property rights and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. He just finished mentioning here how once you add something to something in nature, we were just discussing Indians and how they would have to make teepees and have to domesticate horses and have to make bows and
arrowheads,
make weapons,
have to skin animals, make clothes, make moccasins, make
all that takes labor, and you're applying your labor to the natural elements around you.
So people don't have rights to take things that you've exerted your energy into transforming.
Not really. I mean, not really. No. I mean, once you've exerted your right to it, it becomes your own. It's just sitting out there in nature. No one has a claim to it.
The communists say that you've produced an abundance of things, that it's more than enough for yourself, and that we can take your stuff and spread it throughout the community as we see fit, Rick. Because you have too much.
Oh yeah, have you produced too much?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the one guy that makes all the arrowheads, and he's
just got buckets of them.
Yeah, he's forced to make them.
I want a ration of Cuddy's gold chains. I want my ration of Cuddy's gold chains.
I know, everybody's down.
Give me one of your watches, Cuddy. You got too many.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how they say. They say, "Oh, you got too many guns too. We need some of those too. Too many bullets. We need to ration those out."
You wouldn't happen to have a small pistol, would you?
Do you have one the size of the curve? I would like that, please.
Don't get us wrong, ladies and gentlemen. We do recognize that money today is highly controlled and regulated by the Federal Reserve Bank,
which has cheated people and gave people a whole lot more than they deserve because they swindled it.
Yeah, so money is no longer money. We're no longer using gold or silver, and as a result, a lot of the rich today are rich because they benefited from directly or indirectly from the Federal Reserve printing and counterfeiting real money. And sure, we may have a claim of restitution to them, but the claim to restitution shouldn't involve us redistributing a whole bunch of fake money around and making everybody rich with fake money, because that will surely
get the fake money that they took, and
that will surely spoil us.
Yeah,
that or inflation would kick in, and
that's what I mean. I mean, in the end, we can all be millionaires if we're not working, if we're not producing something, then we're not contributing to society, and thus draining on the available resources.
That must be why they take, all those billions of dollars and just throw them overseas in certain places, billions to Israel, billions over here, billions over there, because, if the money's just all here, it's just going to, right?
Well, yeah, it's making the world, having the world adhere to the global currency that is the U.S. fiat.
Yeah.
The petrodollar.
Yeah. No doubt. So at the end of section 26 here, Locke brought out that everyone should have a right to do this, right? To transform nature into their rightful property, so long as there is enough to go around for everybody. Once there isn't enough to go around, it would probably be left to those. I don't know. I mean, I would believe it'd be left to those that already. It's either not enough to go around, then there's not any new resource to homestead. It's already been acquired. It's already been homesteaded. So now it can only be given to those that can, the most rightful owner, those that are willing to pay the most, or those that are willing to do what it takes to get that resource. You know what I'm saying? When something becomes rare, like there's, hardly ever any, not any enough gold to go around for everybody, it's become a medium of exchange. But what's something else, I guess, couldn't be a medium, like a dodo bird or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you're the last owner of the dodo bird and the dodo bird's extinct or going extinct, it doesn't mean that you all of a sudden don't own that dodo bird that you owned before all the other ones died.
Or is it like those white rhinos?
If that makes any sense. You don't lose your ownership to it. So the ownership would just stay in those that have already gotten the rare material that is not enough to go around. I mean, and I guess here,
the dodo birds.
I guess here, Locke is trying to get into hoarding, and there may have been some belief in hoarding as being a problem, a possible problem in a free market. But further economists down the line really analyze how hoarding is really impractical and doesn't really work to your benefit in a free market versus a statist subsidized market.
He's like going to control the release of a product into the market sporadically to get the best profit out of it.
But it almost seems that there's only natural that you can only hold on to so much before you have to start, trading it or getting rid of it because you're not fully sustainable though either. You're not fully sustainable. You're not just I can just keep all this stuff.
Why would you keep
certain products lose their value as they age? Some things spoil or some things gain value as they age. Well, it depends on the product and the service.
Yep. So someone hoarding a bunch of whiskey in barrels may not be a bad thing.
Yeah,
you may want to wait a couple of decades on that one.
A couple of decades older. Yeah, that'll be some good stuff right there. Some 30-year-old, 40-year-old. Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. Yes, sir. Some aged Parmesan, baby.
Yeah. So this may have been some unforeseen or some maybe some unjustified worries or fears from Locke here towards the end of this. Coming.
Yeah, true. But
there should be concerns. It's not necessarily something you want to be mandating.
He didn't really break it down. He just kind of threw it out at the end.
Oh yeah, watch out for this too.
Yeah, he didn't really have like a breakdown of it, but there's more stuff to come about here. Let's keep going with this. Let's see where else he goes with this. So in section 27, he says that he that is nourished by the acorns he picked up under the oak, or the apples he gathered from the trees in the wood, has certainly appropriated them to himself. Nobody can deny, but the nourishment is his. That the nourishment is his, right? I ask then, when did they begin to be his? When he digested them, or when he ate them, or when he boiled them, or when he brought them home, right? Or when he picked them up? And it is plain that if the first gathered made them not his, nothing else could. That labor put a distinction between them and the common. That added something to them more than nature, the common mother of all, had done. And so they became right, his private right.
Since he kind of broke a sweat, they're his now, right?
It's like he went and he was like running through the woods and he was like hiding, he was finding these eggs and he was like putting them in a basket.
Right. Even picking stuff, picking stuff out in nature. Yeah. He's saying that by picking stuff, you're acquiring it. So like you may pick 12 baskets of apples, but then first of all, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
We're doing Easter eggs, dude.
Yeah, Easter, because it's coming up, bro.
Ishtar?
Yeah.
We're not doing apples.
We're doing
Easter eggs.
We're running around.
Come on, Rick.
We're not there yet.
But look, all the kids, they're running around. They're searching for eggs. Do they take all the? I mean, maybe some families do, but let the kids keep whatever they found, right? That's normally how it goes. Just saying.
Well, yeah, but that's a very different scenario there. I mean, the eggs are painted and boiled and not in their natural state. Yeah.
But the kids go and run around and find them, and then they get to keep them.
Sure,
because they went and had to search and find them.
I guess so. I mean, it's. I don't know. We'll need to bring in the fertility cults and
they went out there and
the bunnies that lay eggs, and
they went out there and gathered them. Rick, it took their searching.
They cultivated them, man.
Yes.
Some rabbit ran out there.
I would argue that's not the same thing, John.
Some rabbit went out there and laid an egg, and they found it.
Now, if there really was an Easter egg, an Easter bunny, Ishtar bunny.
Oh, Ishtar
bunny.
Laid
Easter eggs,
and then you had to go out and it wasn't the parent. Well, what's the difference? The bunny and their parent.
Maybe the parent was possessed.
No, I'm saying, the difference being that. Well, yeah, you're right. The parent drops it in the ground, giving up their property rights to it at that moment.
And they're saying, all of you, look, there's 3 or 4 of them, or 5 of them, or 10 of them.
But here, Locke isn't. Yeah, right.
Earn your eggs.
No, I mean,
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to be a
finders keepers, Rick. Man, that's like 101.
I'm trying to be Ishtar friendly, brah.
What big difference between finding a wallet on the bench in the park versus finding a wallet in your back pocket?
There's no money in the wallet.
While you're wearing your pants in the subway.
I found this wallet, but there's no money in it, Rick.
Yeah, man, there might be money in those Easter eggs.
There's no money in the wallet.
So here Locke is talking about natural stuff from nature. So he continues on saying that will anyone say that he had no right to those acorns or apples that he has thus appropriated because he had not the consent of all mankind to make them his? Was it robbery thus to assume to himself that what belonged to all in common? If such a constant as that was necessary, man had starved notwithstanding the plenty that God had given them. So, if classic democracy, there we've mentioned that point before. If we had to vote,
you'd have to go around and ask everybody if you can eat the apples. By the time you got around, everybody you'd starve from.
Nobody even knows where all the apples.
Can I drink the water?
It's funny, man. That's what I'm saying. I just keep going back to the.
That's another good point. If you're unaware of the apple being in that field,
then how can you even say?
You're only aware of it once it comes into your perspective, or once you become aware of it. So
I'll be a sneaky little apple picker.
So if an apple falls off the tree in the forest and nobody's around to see you pick it up, at what point does it become yours?
Did the socialists hear it?
Yeah, did the socialists come and claim it was everybody's?
Now you must cut everybody an equal slice there, Ricky.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have an abundance of one apple.
7 billion slices, boy.
Yeah, you have too much of that one apple.
Man,
for you.
I'm not going to have much of an apple left.
Yeah.
Applesauce.
No, so he's bringing up good points here. The logic, you can't go the other way because it would be illogical to do so, right? What would you be basing your principles on if you went the way that you had to, that everyone had everything in common?
We use feels, Rick.
So God gave the plenty to all of us. So we see in commons, which remain so by compact, that it is by the taking any part of what is common and removing it out of the state of nature, leaves it in, which begins the property, without which the common is of no use. So even if it is common, right, it's everybody's, is anybody using it?
Yeah, if it's not like in the public commons, the square area, there's a tree with an apple out there and you go and pick it, do you have to ask everybody? No. Shouldn't have to ask anybody.
Yeah. Well, and there you may have, again, the monopoly of the state who, right?
That's a state tree.
That's our tree.
That's my blue bonnet.
Well,
that's my
blue bonnets.
That's my pecans.
The state got its existence from the people that gave consent in order for it to exist, so therefore, by proxy, it's mine.
Mine.
True.
Here in Texas, it's the consent of the governed.
Here in my state.
My state.
So we are coming on a break, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to keep breaking down John Locke. I do have Chris on the line, so stay tuned, Chris.
This is the Logos Radio Network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Truth Exposed Radio, right here on the Logos Radio Network. And Marshall Soul, Cuddy Rowe, and Rick Rohde about to get down some John Locke. But first, you want to go ahead and throw out some of those liners there, Rick?
Yeah, definitely check out logosradionetwork.com. Still got the drawing going, ladies and gentlemen. Really need y'all's help to keep the transmission going. Definitely check out the Spike Skull low receiver on the site, the Forest Curve that you could win with the measly $25 to get you in the drawing.
A measly $25.
Gets you My Magic Mud. First 10 entries for the next 24 hours get the traffic seminar.
Yes, sir. You
get 10 entries if you buy the traffic seminar by Eddie Craig.
Might as well just get that drawing, and get a bunch of
increase that chances, right, to hit the line.
Yeah, that traffic seminar is worth it itself. I'll tell you that right now. I have mine.
Y'all are giving me good ideas right now. I think I'm gonna get that traffic seminar.
You haven't got that traffic seminar yet, Cuddy?
No.
You've been looking over my shoulder on my documents.
I have.
I mean, not only does he break down and get you all the statutes, the codes, the laws,
it's laid out.
The law dictionaries, law encyclopedias, handbooks, various other books,
the audio classes,
all the documents of how to file motions in court, how to create an affidavit, all the procedures to go through.
It's telling you how to throw
step by
uppercuts,
step.
left hooks.
The case law alone right there. And then he's got the papal canons, for Supreme Court justices and judges, all various other things. He even included, things that he was looking into. He was saying, hey, I'm not giving this any credit. This over here in this other folder, but this is stuff to look into for curiosity, He put together a good bit of information.
Well, didn't you say he's always adding to that as well, too?
Yeah, he's still adding to it, and I need to go get the update. So,
there's no telling
we need to go to Brave New Books so I can get mine upgraded. Because that's also the good thing, is if you purchase it, he will upgrade it.
Cool. So that's always good to know.
Yeah, so we need to go back to do the class on Sunday.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, he's there every Sunday at Brave New Books, so definitely do not, miss out on that.
Yeah, if you're in the Austin area, go check it out. It's well worth the time period.
Yes, sir. So where were we?
Yeah, we're breaking down this law. The law, breaking down the law. On property, how do we acquire it? Do we need to ask everyone's permission to transform nature? These are topics that we've discussed already, but it's nice to hear it from somebody that everyone considers to be, the head honcho,
a lot of
the
people
man himself.
Look to Locke when it comes to this, libertarianism, laissez-faire.
Yeah, liberalism in general.
Yeah.
True liberalism.
Yes, the real left.
The idea of the consent of the governed.
Right.
The idea of the separation of powers. The idea of, obviously government is not a separation of powers.
They've got branches, though.
In many respects.
Old school liberalism wanted lots of freedom. New school liberalism wants lots of government.
Yeah, thus it's not liberalism. It's something else.
Statism.
Some nasty amalgamation. So Locke breaking down how we don't need to ask everyone's permission to eat an apple. We would all die of starvation if we had to.
Yeah, I'm not going to go around asking everybody if I can eat the apple.
Yeah, and these are things that God gave us, not human beings. So why would you have to go around asking other people anyway?
I'll ask the tree. I'm going, hey, tree, can I have this apple? If you don't say anything, I'm going to eat it.
Right.
Once, going twice.
If you don't move.
Yeah, and I talk as fast as an auctioneer.
So he continues on here saying that that we see in commons, which remain so by compact, that it is by the taking any part of what is common and removing it outside of the state of nature, which that begins to be property. And the taking of this or that does not depend on the express consent of all commoners. Thus the grass my horse has bit, the turfs my servant has cut, and the ore I have digged in any place, where I have a right to them in common with others, became my property without the assignation or consent of anybody. The labor that was mine, removing them out of the common state they were in, hath fixed my property in them.
So what about the slaves that he had working the property?
How are they slaves? He paid them.
John Locke.
No, he said right there.
I don't know if John Locke had any slaves.
Oh, my servant. Sorry, my servant.
I don't know if John Locke had any slaves, but I think you're talking about Jefferson.
No, it's saying that
servant. Right,
it says turfs my servant has cut.
Yeah.
I don't know to what extent he was serving. If he had just compensation for serving,
Maybe he was a voluntary servant.
Yeah. We do have Chris on the line. Chris from South Carolina. Chris Terry, how's it going?
Good, brother. How's it going?
Pretty good, sir.
Oh, excellent. It's good to speak with some fine intellectual gentlemen for a change.
Yeah, likewise. What's on your mind, Chris? What's been going on?
Well, the usual, just battling socialism, and then the few anarchists that are around are definitely syndicalist, communist types. And
unfortunately, right?
Oh, yeah. And they're always trying to persuade me that, I'm wrong, and that, that capitalism can't work, and that it's oppression, and that, they speak of wage slavery and all these different things like that, these little catchphrases that are emotional rigged.
That's how they work. And in fact, it's good you bring up this class of personality, this political ideology. Chris, how much would you say in your studies, that our own government has played into or is run by these very people, these very people that hold to these ideologies, these communistic, very anarchistic, disregard for law and property ideas?
Oh, honestly, at this point, I would say that they are completely invested in this. And it shows not only with the research of their policy and what they fund, and how George Soros, funds Occupy and other types of things happen like that all the time. But also that in our own experience through life, we remember public education. Some had private. I grew up in public education, and, I realized I was taught to be a liberal socialist without realizing what any of that meant.
Yep, it does go in through the public schools, the indoctrination. Sometimes you'll get fortunate and have some teachers in there that will, teach from the hip, so to speak, and give you other perspectives to look at. And I was fortunate enough to have a few of those. How old are you, Chris? If you don't mind me asking? Try to look at the age difference of how schools got indoctrinated.
I'll be 32 this year. I was born in 1984 on Bastille Day.
So you're not that far off. So you can pretty much, at your age, you can pretty much see the transition as you went to school, how it started to change.
Exactly. And it makes sense because the fact that a few of us can understand that, we can help to compete in the market, hopefully to offer better education and not indoctrination, but logical studies and things that help children facilitate the use of their minds so that they can self-learn, which is ultimately the highest form of learning.
Yeah, most definitely, right? The seeking of knowledge. It's I would agree with you, Chris. I mean, when you consider this, and it's not, obviously it hasn't been just this president, but when you consider this president's, pretty much acceptance, all out acceptance, and this administration's acceptance of Black Lives Matter, when you consider Bernie Sanders being the Occupy candidate, when you consider the neocons in power that are really just neo-Trotskyites, so many things, the censoring of free speech, the total information awareness, the disregard for homesteading, all these international laws of compliance on our property that are supposedly there to take care of the earth and watch everyone's back. And And not to mention the little horn himself, the man of sin, the son of perdition, meeting up with the Pope, Pope Francis, meeting up with Raul Castro, and Castro's speech when the Pope visited was like communism 101. I mean, they were blaming the West and the white nations for depriving the third world from resources, and that's the reason their people are starving, and it's consumerism and capitalism that have destroyed the third
on other people.
Yeah, and they're the ones in power. Just like we have the ones in power now still saying that everything's horrible and bad when they've been in power for almost 8 years now.
Hold on 1 minute. We're coming on to a break, Chris. And
yeah, we're going to keep you on, Chris.
Stay tuned. This is Truth Exposed.
What's Sweet and Gooey? Available at your local supermarket. Costs about $3 and is known to slash your risk of cancer. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht, and I'll be back with the answer in a moment.
Privacy is under attack. When you give up data about yourself, you'll never get it back again. And once your privacy is gone, you'll find your freedoms will start to vanish too. So protect your rights, say no to surveillance, and keep your information to yourself. Privacy, it's worth hanging on to. This message is brought to you by StartPage.com, the private search engine alternative to Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Start over with StartPage.
If you're a jelly junkie, I've got sweet news for you. Researchers have found that pectin, the all-natural gel that binds liquid ingredients in jams and jellies, slows the growth and spread of cancer. Cancer cells form tumors by joining together with gooey receptors. Pectin, made from apples and the skins of citrus fruits, binds to those receptors before the bad cells can, eventually killing them. Some say pectin cures chronic joint pain and prevents arthritis, too. Though I can't vouch for that, it can't hurt to try this natural remedy. Turns out a spoonful of apple pectin a day may actually keep the doctor away. I'm Dr. Catherine Albrecht for StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine.
Actually be kidding about chemtrails.
You're listening to the Logos Radio Network at logosradionetwork.com.
And we are back live. This is Truth Exposed in the Logos Radio Network. Live here every Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. Phone lines are still open, 512-646-1984. And we do have a caller still on the line, chatting with Chris from South Carolina. What's going on, Chris?
Not much. I was just thinking about the situation we were talking of. And, my personal experience with a lot of people, especially a coworker with the syndicalist and other types of socialists is, as far as their reasoning for why everything is so horrible in their mindset, about, wage disparity and poverty and the like, is that, corporations and people that are successful that own so much private property are the reason that they don't have more. And looking at it, in that angle, instead of realizing that maybe their lack of motivation to succeed has something to do with why they can't acquire more for themselves, they also want to spread the blame equally as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as well-rounded analyzers of this, we also recognize, as I was briefly talking about a little bit earlier in the show, we do recognize that with some of these rich institutions, really well-to-do institutions, Walmart, for example, Boeing, for example, different organizations, Big Pharma, you got the
General Motors.
All those companies. I mean, there are a lot of rich, well-to-do groups and individuals of people that are well-to-do because of the state apparatus, because of the privileges that the so-called philanthropy of government has bestowed upon them. They may not have they
might not have the means to actually stay afloat, but with the subsidies that they're given, they get it.
Well, the government picks and chooses the winners. The whole economy is already rigged through them anyway. So
just like politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, what Rand called the aristocracy of pull, or the aristocracy of power.
The people who control the mortgages and the loans.
If people were legitimately rich because they actually provided services and products in a free market, in a completely free market, they would have gained that at the benefit of society. Right. When you have a government and you have special allocation of wealth, redistribution of wealth, you have rich people that didn't gain it by benefiting society, and thus, as a result, are actually probably going to use that money towards society's detriment even. It's
hence the political system and everybody in it, right? And all the banks surrounding the Federal Reserve to get the kickbacks and everything.
All the while forgetting that it is the people which they gain their sustenance from. So if the people are successful, you're successful.
That's why they just give us enough freedom to keep producing.
They recognize that very well. They recognize that very well. They'll loosen up their.
We just got to keep everybody at account.
They'll loosen up their grip when they need to, and have their Trump, candidate go in and maybe just not do anything for 4-8 years, and that's considered a good thing because at least they didn't push the agenda, continue pushing the agenda.
And so
it's like. Oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I just wanted to say this. I basically went back and I said, look, it's because of the government that these corporations have all these privileges, and also. It's also because of the Federal Reserve and the lack of economical understanding of the people who don't understand what real currency is. That we have all this disparity. But why does my property rights and my personal labor have to be affected? How would you apply that? Sometimes they'll backtrack and say, no, just corporations. And I'm like, look, if I build another building next to my house and I employ a handful of people, and that's my company, that's my means of production. Are you going to come and take that from me? And then sometimes they'll get a little nervous and they're like, oh no, and they realize that, I'm not a well-to-do, wealthy individual myself, but they just don't understand that I would be if I could, and I aim to be.
Yeah.
Why would I be taking? But see, I'm not taking from them and their productivity because of mine.
Right. Wealth in a free society is not the hardworking making it at the expense of the lazy. It's not.
Exactly.
People try to make that association, and they don't see that it's government, this forceful redistribution of wealth. And so many things have to do with a voluntary compliance, as you will find out with the Rule of Law show. And people that are listening or whatever, you definitely check out Rule of Law on Logos Radio Network. I mean, it's all about consent. Whether you're transporting yourself across their roadways, or you're building, you're fastening your position and building yourself living quarters. There's deeds and contracts that we sign into, just like the vaccines and just like everything else that we sign into, that kind of end up twisting our arms behind our backs. We end up putting ourselves in compromising positions because we're not reading the fine print, I guess.
Yeah, you end up agreeing a lot more than what you realized.
You end up getting fined for not having health care.
Yep, I got fined this year too. I got fined last year and I got fined this year. You know what? Keep on finding me.
No, I'm not paying them.
I'm not paying them. What are they going to do when they tell them my own money? They're going to put me in jail? Go right ahead.
Well, they're taking it from your tax return, aren't they?
Yeah, I'll just stop working.
Yeah, we should all just stop working.
I'm going to claim unemployment and get food stamps and change my last name to a different race last name. That way I can get my food stamps.
But then you depend on them. And they can cut those food stamps whenever they want.
I'm still going to work under the table.
That's what I was going to say. You just need to move to the black and gray, man. Don't worry about what they.
I know how to pull work, man.
Yeah. I said to the government, I'm not working.
Yeah.
To the tax man.
Yeah.
As I can.
You didn't see me winking over here, Rick. I'm like, hush, dude. Shh, keep it on down low.
Well, and that brings up another point. I mean, is totally bankrupting the state and using the state to our benefit, because it's already a rigged system. It doesn't seem like people are going to be waking up anytime soon here. Using it to our benefit and also at the same time dislocating from it. Hey, if it brings its bankruptcy quicker, some would rightfully argue, with a lot of weight, that it's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of like Bernie saying free education, so the tuition will go even higher. Everyone will go get liberal arts degrees, and meanwhile, no one's creating food or power or industry for services and goods that are essential to livelihood.
Yeah, or inventing new objects.
Everything's going to get more expensive. He's going to blame the capitalists.
Capitalist pigs. They're lifting the prices up over here.
The bourgeois.
Yeah.
We got too many deodorants and sneakers.
Yeah, nobody needs deodorant or razor blades.
If they had the way, they would produce what they felt like. I feel like drawing this stupid picture, and people are, just going to like this. I don't care what they want. I just want to do what I feel like, man.
The feels, man. My feels.
And then they owe me, right? They owe me for it, regardless if they want it.
Yeah.
My picture's worth $500,000, and the state's going to pay for it.
I'm on the board of the EPA. I do you a service. Pay me now.
Right. Well, I don't want to hold up the line for the rest of the whole show, but I do want to bring up what you were saying earlier about Adam's heirs. I have a few things to say about that.
Sure.
Regardless of whether we know that all humanity is Adam's heirs or not, but maybe just based on natural philosophy according to the word, don't we have the equal claim to justify our self-rule, if not under God, but instead of man? And did the Hebrew people need a man to be a ruler in competition with the pagan war cultures? And when we read 1 Samuel 8, it's clear that God was rejected as an ultimate authority for man. He allowed them to have an earthly ruler, just like he allowed them to eat flesh, and he, gave more than he wanted to originally because of their disobedience. But it's clear that it was not what was really intended.
Yeah, very good point. Very, very well said there, Chris. I would completely agree with you on that.
The choice was intended, though. The voluntarism was intended. That's what I like. You know, your free will, your choice. You weren't forced. So it's all our choice, right? To do right or to do wrong.
I mean, the commandments have property rights written completely in them. Besides, thou shalt not steal and covet and all of those things. You know, we understand in murder, all of it applies to property and self-ownership, and then how God also implies contracts and property and ownership in the fourth commandment.
Right.
They want to keep.
Well, you're saying as far as lying or not deceiving, making a contract or something, or what do you mean?
Yeah, not deceiving, but also the fact that someone could or something could create ownership because God created things, so he does own it because it was his labor that made it.
Oh, there you go. Amen to that. Yeah, he's the creator, thus he's the originator of property rights, and he bestowed man with dominion.
Exactly. So he bestowed some of his property rights onto us and said, here, you're going to have dominion over this.
You're going to be responsible over this now.
Responsible, right, and accountable, too.
Amen to that, Chris. Amen to that. Do appreciate you calling in, Chris. We're coming on our break.
Hey, brother.
Give me a call sometime, bro. Godspeed.
Easy.
The Casualties bringing in hardcore there here towards our last segment. Ladies and gentlemen, do appreciate you guys coming on for the ride. Do appreciate Chris for calling in.
Always got to love those callers.
Yep. And you listeners, got to love the listeners too. Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in.
Feel free to participate and pontificate.
Whenever. Always here to have lines open, free speech every day, every Wednesday.
Within reason, we have to keep the regards to the FCC.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
Apparently, they didn't allow for homesteading of airwaves.
Nah, they own the air, bruh.
Yeah.
I thought those were public.
And the waves. No free surfing.
Yeah. So we just finished reading about how essentially taking things out of nature and even just picking it up essentially already did a big transformation to it. I mean, example, you pick up a goat or you capture a goat in order to keep it in your fenced-in area in order to breed it. I mean, you caught it.
You set up a radio tower and you put out a transmission and you homesteaded an airwave.
Yeah.
FCC said, no, you didn't build that.
You didn't build that.
Oh,
we need to build that.
We baked that all right.
We need to build that.
Anarchy cake.
We're going to regulate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Section 28 here, by making an explicit consent of every commoner necessary to anyone's appropriating to himself any part of what is given in common, children or servants could not cut the meat which their fathers or masters had provided for them in common without assigning to every one his particular part. Though the water running in the fountain be every one's, yet who can doubt but that in a pitcher is his only who drew it out? His labor that hath taken it out of his hands of nature, where it was common, and belonged equally to all the children, all her children, nature's children, and hath thereby appropriated it to himself. So the well may be common, right? You build a well in a community and everyone owns the well.
But the water went into his bucket.
And you did the labor of pulling it out.
That's why, bro, I do not smash sandcastles.
That water trespassed in my bucket.
I did not build that sandcastle. It's not mine to smash.
Aside from that just being a really jerk thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes you want to be like Godzilla.
But it's very statist to do.
It is.
Very stated. Did you pay ask my permission to build that?
Build your own sandcastle and then be Godzilla on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Respect others, who put their time and their effort, into whatever it is to transform. Just, you could be courteous. You could be nice.
I'll wait till after you leave and then I'll destroy it.
Yeah, wait till I turn my back to turn into a status goon.
So, yeah, we just need a pick from nature, and it's pretty much ours, right? Yeah, hopefully we're not status goons behind closed doors.
Anyway, high tide comes through and then washes the sandcastle away. So
the water statist.
Natural. See, that's different, though. That's the rules of nature.
Oh, yeah, right?
No governing that. Unless they got some chemtrails.
It was you that trespassed upon the nature.
There you go.
Well, you took a risk, and it was a foolish risk.
It was a poor choice of homesteading.
What's that? Right on the edge of the cliffs in California. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, and then you're mad when your thing falls into the ocean. Like, bruh, come on. It's erosion. It's just
that insurance is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You live on a cliff.
Yeah.
Or you live on a little island out in the middle of a lake that floods.
Yeah, every now and then in the middle of the Mississippi, right? Yeah. So here it continues on. Mr. Locke himself. Thus, this law of reason makes the deer that Indians who have killed it is allowed to be his goods, who have bestowed his labor upon it, though before it was common right for everyone. And amongst those who are accounted the civilest part of mankind, who have made and multiplied positive laws to determine property, this original law of nature from the beginning of property, and what was before common, still takes place. And by virtue thereof, what fish anyone catches in the ocean, that great and still remaining common of mankind, or what ambergris anyone takes up here, is by the labor that removes it out of that common state nature left it in, made his property who takes that pains about it. Neat how he kind of, we're talking about old school, 1700s over here, and bringing up homesteading on the sea. Some seasteading here, like bringing up that the ocean is, he at least noticed that up to that point they weren't able to stead the ocean. Can't build oil rigs on the ocean and build platforms on the ocean in John Locke's day.
They got it now.
Though.
Hey, but it's something that you a part of nature you have to deal with. There's certain aspects that cost you money just in trying to maintain some kind of platform in the sea. I mean, there's all kinds of erosion and all kinds of things you're having to fight. I mean,
yeah, and it doesn't seem like, we definitely have to keep reading here to find out where he goes with this, but so far it seems like the tragedy of commons can definitely befall this situation where if everyone owns a little bay area, then overfishing or things of that nature, overgrowing, tilling, or over reaping of certain things that are growing may cause a destruction of it. So is it better left in private hands? Is it better left at the discretion of certain individuals that particularly have a right to just, fishing, for example, in that area? They're the ones that have their boats out there.
Not only a right, but they have more need to want to sustain that instead of use it all up, because then their means of production are gone. There's no other way for them to sustain themselves if they use every
fish, right?
Every fish up, and then there's no fish left to reproduce. I mean, that's why there's farms and there's people trying to manage herds and people who all kinds of things, cultivate
animal husbandry.
Yeah, or plants. Likewise. I mean,
the seed vaults.
You eat all the apple trees that were just naturally growing. Or you
got to plant a whole bunch of apple trees to make to make some cider.
Yeah,
to make some applesauce.
Yeah, and to keep producing.
Right.
I was going to cider.
But it's in the private individual's best interest to be conservative with the resources versus the government, who it's arbitrary,
gives it up to the highest bidder.
Yeah,
always
and wasted and has no.
Or it may also be somebody that they know. It could be inside jobbers, like somebody that passes it off to a friend or a family member or something like that, and make sure that they get the product of the contract.
Well, yeah, in the end, they're going to do what's best for them. In the end, they're going to do whatever it may be.
Their own personal interest.
Their own personal interest. And that's what we all do. And that's just a reality that we can't escape. Just because you work for the government and you have a government badge doesn't mean you're all of a sudden not working for profit. That you're all of a sudden some saint that cannot commit any wrongdoing whatsoever. It's as simple as that. I mean, you work for an agency that pays you, and therefore you are seeking profit. And therefore it's your responsibility as to whether that company you work for, that employer you work for, is a ethical employer or not. You can't just work for the mob and pat yourself on the back and tell yourself, oh, well, at least I'm bringing food to my table and feeding my kids.
Oh, you mean I can't just go work for Halliburton just, because I want to bring back a paycheck?
Yeah,
even though they've got the white slavery rings and all kinds of, child slavery rings going on and child sex kidnapping
I forgot
rings.
about all that. That stuff that was taking place in Eastern Europe.
Oh, no, but they produce
heavily over there.
Mad oil, bro. And, come on, man. Like,
black gold. They're fighting the terrorists.
Yeah, right. They got all the... Yeah. Mercenary private contract bids and all that garbage.
And yet a lot of these people have the audacity to imprison and to fine people that are engaging in voluntary commercial action, right? Voluntary transactions.
That's the evil of the world, is people being peacefully,
exchanging goods. Yeah. Spontaneous order going about and people trying to impose their will.
Yeah. Murder is good, bro. As long as it's sanctioned by the state.
Yeah. You were growing, forbidden plants in your backyard.
hack his head off, bro.
Yeah.
Or if you want your
Robespierre,
products,
man. Let's
if you want
You
your
weren't wearing your
products,
seatbelt. You know, you got to get tased now.
or if you want your products to get to that side, you got to pay the tax before you can get your product over to his side of the street.
But it's all about we've got to create our version of a perfect society, right? You know, the state, you know, wants to steer humanity, and whoever the leaders or the people at the top, you know, want to will it. You know,
They're so much more enlightened than we are, aren't they?
they are, right? Because
They know all.
They can make all of our decisions way better than we can.
I hope they pick up my clothes for me tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, they kind of did. They helped it. You know, they gave Gap and a lot of subsidies there.
They've been able to
thus
create.
increasing the chances.
You
that
think
you
you think I wear Gap?
I'm just saying, increasing the chances you may wear Gap. They, you know, they discourage certain ideas, increasing the chances you're going to get a bunch of fluff. You know, that's why you got to make your own clothes a lot of times in order to get the message you want. You got to make your own thing. You got to build your own realm.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of asking someone else to do it for you.
Come on now.
I don't know. I had my clothes made for me when I was a kid. I didn't quite like it very much.
Well, exactly. And you had to go and get your own or something. Decide.
Sometimes you got to go to Goodwill, but hey, there's a selection there. You know.
Hey, somebody.
Yeah, I found some cool old school stuff from there.
You got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
As long as you can get in jock straps or
Tag
whities.
Yeah, they'll be buying underwear there. You're out of line.
This is wrong. I always wonder why they sold that. And so why is that in here? Who would buy that?
Oh, man.
Is it already coming to the end of the line?
It is. We're coming to the end of the show, the wrap up. I do encourage you guys to check out Chapter 5 of John Locke's 2 Treaties of Government. Definitely read ahead. Be caught up for next week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's pregnant. It's pregnant information. We all, you know, understand this.
Oh, yeah. Got crypto coming up next. And, of course, yours truly, the Three Stooges of Liberty. We'll be back next week.
Every Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m. live.
Right on this Logos Radio Network.
Peace.